Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Archer Materials 2020 Annual General Meeting. My name is Greg English, Executive Chairman of Archer Materials, and I welcome you to the company's 13th Annual General Meeting and the first virtual AGM. I'll be the Chairman of today's meeting, and with the quorum present, I'm pleased to formally declare the meeting open. Given the significant health concerns attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic, this AGM is being held as a virtual-only meeting. I'd like to start by introducing my fellow directors and senior management of the company who are all online today. Alice McCleary is a non-executive director and was one of the founding directors of Archer. Alice was previously chair of 27 Co. Alice brings to the company both experience in finance and corporate governance. Alice is chair of the Audit and Risk Committee. Ken Williams was appointed as a non-executive director of the company by the board on 25 September 2020 and was also appointed as a member of the company's Audit and Risk Management Committee. Ken has over 30 years experience in corporate finance and has held senior executive, director and chair positions with leading ASX companies. Dr. Mohammed Shakir is our Chief Executive Officer and has been with the company since 2017. Mohammed is a driving force behind the company's advanced materials strategy and is well respected both in Australia and overseas. Damien Connor is the company secretary and CFO. Damien has been with Archer since 2014. We are also joined today by Bronwyn Wondersitz, who is representing the company's auditors, Grant Thornton. Grant Thornton have been Archer's auditors since the company's inception. This meeting is being conducted online via Lumi as a virtual meeting. The company has released to ASX and posted on our website detailed procedures on the conduct of today's meeting, including the process for the asking and answering of questions and what is to happen in the event of a technical malfunction. In summary, all questions can be submitted via the Q&A function on your screen. Only registered shareholders may ask questions. If we cannot verify your shareholding in our register, then you may not receive a response to your question. If there is an interruption to the meeting, then you are requested to stay connected to the meeting website for at least 15 minutes. If the meeting cannot be resumed, then all items of the official business of the meeting described in the notice of meeting will be deemed to be properly before the meeting. All proxy and other votes received before the start of the interruption will be considered to have been validly cast, and the official business of the meeting conducted before the interruption will be deemed to have been validly completed and the meeting adjourned immediately thereafter. Voting on all resolutions today will be conducted by poll, and I now declare the poll open. For the purposes of the poll, I appoint Jake Vanderhoek of Computershare, the company share registry, who have examined and prepared summaries of the proxy forms received, to act as returning officer and to conduct the poll. You do not need to vote at the meeting if you have already voted prior to the meeting by lodging your proxy by mail, online, fax or email. However, if you wish to change your vote, or if you have not previously voted, you may vote online during the meeting while the polls are open. Now that the poll is open, if you are eligible to vote at the meeting, a new polling icon will appear. Selecting this icon will bring up a list of resolutions and present you with voting options. To cast your vote, simply select one of the options. There is no need to hit a submit or enter button, as the vote is automatically recorded. The number of proxies received by the company for each resolution and how they have been cast is displayed on your screen. I now go to the Chairman's address. This address was lodged with ASX earlier this morning, so the full transcript can be viewed there. So I will just read highlights of that address rather than the whole document verbatim. Good morning and welcome to the Annual General Meeting of Archer Materials Limited. Today is our 13th AGM and our first virtual AGM. While COVID-19 restrictions mean that we will be unable to hold a physical AGM, the virtual AGM allows us to engage with our overseas shareholders and those shareholders who are traditionally unable to attend our shareholder meetings. Despite the havoc caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, we've achieved considerable progress in the transition of the company away from mineral exploration and toward materials technology. Throughout the year, the focus on the advanced materials business increased significantly. In less than 2 years since announcing the commencement of our 1-2 CQ project, we have made substantial progress on creating a new culture and identity while maintaining our habit of doing high quality work cost effectively. During the year, we delivered all that we announced at the start of the year and more. We further sharpened Arch's strategic focus on quantum technology, human health and reliable energy. We continued to divest non-core exploration tenements and assets as a means of funding the advanced materials business. And on the 2nd of July this year, we completed the divestment of the Leigh Creek magnesite project for $2.8 million. Our exploration tenements are no longer core to our materials technology strategy, and we will continue to sell our material exploration projects to fund our advanced materials business. Our primary focus during the past 12 months has been on development of the room temperature quantum computer chip, our 1-2 CQ project. We believe that over the next few years, that quantum computing will move from the high-tech lab to mainstream commercial use, representing the next major breakthrough in modern IT. Quantum computing represents a sweeping technological breakthrough that is set to change so much of the way we work and interact. Our most notable transaction during the year was a collaboration agreement with IBM. As part of the contract between Archer and IBM, Archer is the first Australian company building a quantum computing qubit processor to join the global IBM Q network as an ecosystem partner. We have already begun accessing IBM's quantum computing expertise and resources, and open source QuizKit software and developer tools. During the year, we also continued to develop IP associated with the potential solution to graphene-based biosensors capable of complex detection of disease. A set of new graphene materials has been designed by Archer that could be directly applied for enhancing biosensing. Technologically, we have made considerable progress with developing the biosensing interface, data processing, and design and fabrication of materials, electrodes critical to the biosensor technology function, and we'll continue this work in 2021. We are now the only ASX-listed company that offers shareholders exposure to the ever-growing world of quantum computing. By developing our advanced materials business, we have laid the foundation for a new era of technology and business. We have made considerable progress in a short amount of time, and it's easy to forget that we are still in the early stages of a long cycle of a technological revolution. Archer is now set for a future that is different from our past, but some things won't change. We will continue to conduct all of our activities professionally, cost effectively, and to a high standard. On behalf of the board, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of our employees for their dedication and energy in making 2020 a success. We also express our gratitude to our industry and research partners with whom we have developed a healthy relationship. Finally, we thank our shareholders for your continued support, trust, and confidence. That ends the Chairman's address. I'll now go through a description of the process for the formal part of the meeting and the resolutions. As previously stated, voting today will be by a poll. The online voting portal is now open, and you can lodge your votes at any time between now and the closing of the poll at the end of the meeting. You can also submit a question at any time, and questions will be answered at the end of the meeting and before the polls are closed. The notice of meeting and an addendum to that notice containing the text of the resolutions to be put at this meeting have been published on our website, and a letter regarding this meeting has been posted to shareholders. The notice and addendum also contain supporting notes designed to give further clarification and background. Copies of the notice of meeting and addendum are available on the ASX or the company's website. I confirm that the required notice of the meeting has been given, and I therefore propose, with your consent, that the notice of meeting and addendum should be taken as read. The company's annual report for the financial year ended 30 June 2020, incorporating the financial report, director's report and auditor's report, has been lodged with ASX and published on our website and posted to those shareholders who requested a copy of the annual report. Those reports were subject to audit by Grant Thornton, who gave an unqualified audit opinion. Copies of the 2020 annual report are available on the ASX or the company's website. I now declare the financial statements, the director's report and the independent auditor's report for the year ended 30 June 2020 as duly received and considered at the meeting. You may ask questions of the auditor in relation to the conduct of the audit, the preparation and content of the auditor's report, the accounting policies adopted by the company, and the independence of the auditor in relation to the audit. There will be 5 resolutions today. Resolutions 1 to 4 are ordinary resolutions, while resolutions 5 and 6 are special resolutions. Originally we put out 6 resolutions. Resolution 3 was to deal with a refresh of our 10% placement capacity. We no longer need to refresh that 10% placement capacity because we are requesting that shareholders approve an additional 10% placement capacity in resolutions 5. Let me just double check that. Yeah, in resolution 5. So therefore resolution 3 is no longer required. So I'll now go to resolution 1. The first resolution is a non-binding resolution related to the company's remuneration of key management personnel as disclosed in the remuneration report contained in the company's 2020 annual report. The remuneration report sets out the policy for remuneration and complete audited details of the remuneration of the directors, company secretary and senior management. Although this resolution is non-binding, it allows shareholders to indicate their support or otherwise for the company's remuneration arrangements disclosed in the 2020 remuneration report. I now move the resolution that the remuneration report for the year ended 30 June 2020 be adopted. I'll now go to resolution 2, the election of Ken Williams. Kenneth Williams was appointed as a non-executive director of the company by the board on 25 September 2020 and was also appointed as a member of the company's Audit and Risk Management Committee. Ken Williams offers himself for election at the first annual AGM since his appointment in accordance with Listing Rule 14.4 and Clause 2.4 of the company's constitution. Ken, who is based in Adelaide, has over 30 years' experience in corporate finance and has held senior executive, director and chair positions with leading ASX companies. Ken is currently the independent chairman of Statewide Super, a South Australian-based industry super fund with over $10 billion in funds under management. I now move the following ordinary resolution that Kenneth Graham Williams be directed as a non-executive director of the company. As noted earlier, resolution 3 has been withdrawn because it's no longer required. Now go to resolution 4, which is the approval to issue incentive options to a director. The company considers the issue of options and performance rights as a key strategy in the attraction and retention of key employees and consultants. As such, resolution 4 seeks approval for the issue of options to Ken Williams, a non-executive director of the company. The options will have an exercise price equal to 145% of the 5-day volume-weighted average price for Archer shares up to and including the issue date. For example, this means that if the 5-day VWAP before the date of issue of the options was 50 cents, then each option will have an exercise price of 72.5 cents. Any options not exercised before 31 March 2024 will lapse. The company is seeking approval to issue a total of 1.5 million options to Ken Williams. The options issued will be subject to the rules of the performance rights and share option plan adopted by Archer shareholders last year. The proposed grant of incentive options is expected to take place within the next week, but no later than 30 December 2020. Ken Williams has a material personal interest in the outcome of Resolution 4, and in accordance with ASIC guidelines on the matter, each director considers that it is not appropriate for them to make a recommendation in relation to the remuneration of another director. Accordingly, all directors decline to make any recommendation to shareholders in relation to Resolution 4. I now move the following ordinary resolution: to approve the grant of 1.5 million incentive options to Kenneth Williams, a director of the company, or his nominee, as described in the explanatory memorandum. Resolutions 5 and 6 are special resolutions, they need at least 75% of the valid votes cast to pass. Resolution 5 deals with the approval of a 10% equity security placement facility. Under Listing Rule 7.1a, the company may seek shareholder approval at each AGM for the ability to issue up to 10% of the company's issued securities without further shareholder approval. This 10% placement capacity is in addition to the 15% placement capacity allowed under ASX Listing Rule 7.1. The explanatory memorandum contains detailed information on the operation of the 10% placement capacity and the limitation on the price of securities that can be issued under this facility. For example, the issue price of shares will be no less than 75% of the volume-weighted average price for securities in that class calculated over the prior 15 trading days. I now move the following special resolution: that for the purposes of Listing Rule 7.1a, approval is given for the company to issue equity securities totaling up to 10% of the issued capital of the company at the time of the issue, calculated in accordance with the formula prescribed in ASX Listing Rule 7.1a.2 and on the terms and conditions described in the explanatory memorandum. I now go to the last resolution, which is Resolution 6, which is a special resolution and deals with the adoption of a new constitution for the company. The current constitution was adopted in May 2007, and since then there have been a number of changes to the Corporations Act, the ASX Listing Rules, the ASX Settlement Rules, and corporate governance principles for listed companies. Accordingly, the board considers that it is in the best interest of the company and its shareholders to revise and update the current constitution. Given the number of changes involved and the need to use updated technology, the best and most efficient way of incorporating these changes is to adopt the new constitution. The new constitution is broadly consistent with the provisions of the existing Archer constitution. Many of the proposed changes are administrative or minor in nature. A copy of the new constitution is available on the company's website, and if approved at this meeting, the new constitution will also be lodged with ASX. The new constitution includes a proportional takeover bid provision, which requires the directors to hold a meeting of members of the relevant class if a proportional takeover bid is made to shareholders. The explanatory memorandum contains information about the advantages and disadvantages of adopting the proportional takeover bid provisions. The directors do not believe that the potential disadvantages outweigh the potential advantages of adopting the proportional takeover provisions, and as a result, consider that the proportional takeover provisions in the proposed constitution is in the interest of shareholders and unanimously recommend that shareholders vote in favour of Resolution 6. I now move the following special resolution: that for the purposes of Section 136 of the Corporations Act and for all other purposes, the Constitution of the company be repealed and replaced with the Constitution in the form of the document tabled at this meeting and signed by the Chair for the purposes of identification, effective immediately. So that's the last of the resolutions, going through the resolutions. We'll now answer the questions that we've received during the meeting. So I'll address the questions in the order in which we've received them. We have received some questions before today's meeting, and I'll address those meetings first. We actually received two questions that both deal with the same matter, and that's to do with the company's intention to pay dividend. So just joining the two questions together, does Archer have the intention to pay dividends in the future? And what will have to occur for the company to do so? At this point in time, the board has no intention to pay dividends, as all of the company's funds are being used in research and development and the development of our 12CQ project and the biosensor. So at this stage, we don't have the ability to pay dividends and there's no intention to do so. Another question was, can you please provide an update on the status of our patents? So I'll hand it over to you, Mohammed, to give us a bit of an update, please.
No problem. Thank you, Greg. Just checking if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I'm really glad this question was asked, because our intellectual property are our key assets, and in the form of our patent applications. We are progressing with the international prosecution of our patent applications. We currently have 7 patent applications related to our 12CQ qubit processor, which are being prosecuted in major jurisdictions around the world, which includes China, Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea, Europe, Australia, and the US. And we also have a PCT application in for our biosensor technology. That's all progressing well, and where we can, we are progressing as fast as possible. For example, in the EU with a PACE request, and I'm very happy with the progress that we're making to date, and I'm looking forward to updating our shareholders on the progress in key jurisdictions. Earlier in the year, we progressed to substantive examination stages in South Korea, Japan, and Europe. So it's all coming along nicely.
Great, thank you, Mohammed. The next question we have is, can you please explain the rationale for granting 1.5 million rights to Ken Williams? So, yeah, just confirming that it's for the grant of 1.5 million options rather than performance rights in this instance. So options, obviously the option holder needs to pay the exercise price in order to exercise the option and convert it to a share. So there'll be a considerable amount of money that would have to be paid to exercise these options, and that money would go direct to the company. So the company and the board forms a view that the issue of options, and in some cases performance rights, but in this case it's just options, are a key strategy in the retention of key employees and consultants. And we also see the options as a way of better aligning the director interest and the board interests with shareholder interests as well. So just confirming, as an example, that if the options did have an exercise price of, say, 70 cents, then Ken Williams would need to pay the company in excess of $1 million in order to exercise those options, those 1.5 million options, which would help fund our other activities. The next question we have is, what progress is being made with reliable energy? So Mohammed, I'll hand that over to you, please.
No problem. Thank you, Greg. We are moving forward in our strategy, which involves 3 key themes of quantum technology, human health, and reliable energy. With reliable energy, we are looking to fill this vertical and this key theme with technology that can address the trade-off between energy and end use in electronics. So we are moving forward with our strategy in obtaining and acquiring IP that would be used to generate value in this vertical. Our flagship program is our 12CQ chip, which is followed by our human health stream with our A1 biochip. And now we will continue to ramp up and accelerate our move forward in the reliable energy theme.
Great, thanks, Mohammed. With the next question, I'll read it out and then I'll answer it. And then at the end, Mohammed, if there's anything else you want to add, then step in. So the question is, you've stated today that we are convinced that the share price still has future growth potential to reflect the true value of the company better. Can you further explain this statement and comment on what you believe the true value of the company might be and why? Look, we believe that with the 1-2 CQ work that we're doing, that we have a truly exceptional and unique opportunity to develop a room temperature quantum computer chip that will be so different to everything else that's on the market and that's going to become on the market. To be able to develop something that can operate at room temperature will just allow so many opportunities for use of the chip rather than the current chips that are being developed. One initial problem we've had is just explaining to brokers and shareholders and investors where quantum computers are going and how in Australia we seem to be a little bit behind the rest of the world in their embracing quantum computer technology. We've recently seen that CSIRO have developed their roadmap for Australia, which is great, and that's also helped us to explain it. But we think once people understand what quantum computers can do and where they're going, and with us being the only ASX listed quantum computing company, we believe that people will start to understand what we're doing and realise the true value in what we're doing. So that's up to us. I mean, you see Mohammed doing a great job and his team with all of the newsletters we're putting out, with the joint webinars we're conducting. But we've just got to keep going around and keep explaining it to people, and also just keep doing what we're doing, which is meeting all the deadlines that we have been. We're meeting all the time frames that we're telling investors we are, and we've just got to keep going along. And I'm sure that once people recognise what we're doing and how good we are, that will be reflected in our share price. Mohammed, is there anything else?
Yeah, thank you, Greg. And it's a good question. On our end, we just want to say that we've worked very hard to reduce the hype around these technologies. We've made sure that there isn't a disconnect between our shareholders' expectations and our communications when it comes to really explaining the size of the potential addressable markets around the world and the actual need and the rapidness in which technology is evolving around the world. We've kept that hype absolutely close to zero as possible. The second thing is, what we need to remember is the technologies that we're working on are a world first. And as Greg was saying, there's no clear benchmark, and it's not fair to try and base analogies on existing technologies, which either may or may not work in tandem with these technologies that we're building, like quantum computing processors. So the one key takeaway I would say is that we're working on technologies that have a real and unique potentially global product offering. And that's something that's quite special at Archer. And I think on the ASX, we have an opportunity to really cement ourselves as a materials technology company that's developing some very, very sophisticated technologies that can address some very large global markets. Thank you, Greg.
Great, thanks, Mohammed. So that's the end of the questions that we've received. So I confirm that the poll will be closing in about a minute's time. So can all shareholders voting online please now ensure that you have submitted your votes. The staff of Computershare will process the poll once the poll is closed, and the results will be announced to the ASX once they are available. I'll now just leave a few seconds for people to get their last minute votes in. Okay, so I now declare the poll closed. All of the business set out in the notice of meeting has been conducted, and no other item of business has been raised. Therefore, that now concludes the formal part of the meeting, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.